Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the viewers to this webinar across the world. A special welcome to our teachers who have joined today. I can see a couple of names. It's always great to have your presence and inspiration, respected teachers, on all these initiatives as students, what we do. I'm Samish Tekil. I passed out from College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Trivandrum, back in 1997. And now I'm working in global marketing with a company called Takeda, based out of Boston in the US. We at COPS Global started the first webinar series back in August of 2021. It all started with a WhatsApp group and like-minded alumni coming together. Many of them you might have heard or seen during our webinars in the last 6 months. And we got some amazing response to that, We did 5 series in the last 6-7 months, or series in the sense 5 webinars, which touched upon various fields across the pharmaceutical value chain. When I say value chain, we started with a webinar in sales and marketing. We moved to natural products. We did R&D. We did molecular diagnostics. We did a career opportunities with pharmacists, and we got amazing acceptance. And why I'm saying so, because in this times of social media and videos across everywhere, when you see these 5 webinars, when you look at the viewership, including what we had on the live day, plus all those people who viewed these videos in YouTube later, it's coming to an astounding 5,000 plus views. Can you imagine that? So that is amazing. That is something which is, we are so happy that with your help, as a team, we could do something which is useful for 500 set of eyes. That is fantastic. This is what we all did not have when we were in college. We didn't have people to ask like how different fields work, what are the different career opportunities outside, what are the things I should be thinking in my mind to decide my way forward. So that's the objective of doing this. So thank you again, and welcome all of you to the second series now, which we are starting with with today's webinar. So welcome you to the webinars series 2, starting with the webinar on adverse drug reaction. But before getting into that, it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce you to our speaker, Mr. Biswajith Kesavan, who is one of my closest friends, my college mate, and probably a partner in some of the petty crimes, what we had gone through during these days. But more importantly, I would say he was one of those most popular guys, at least in my times, not just in Trivandrum Medical College, but our Kandamoola Modulu Ullur Junction, where everybody knew this guy. It was sickening, It was definitely not good for all of us, but that was how it was. We had a terrific time. So glad. Thank you so much, Biswajith, and welcome you to this webinar. And talking about it from his career side, he's an expert in European pharmacovigilance and has led multiple pharmacovigilance operations in multiple therapy areas and companies. He has also authored nearly 100 pharmacovigilance reports for various health authorities across the world, and is now working as a case quality and medical expert with Sanofi in Paris, and has been living in Paris for the last 20 plus years. We also have a fantastic panel, very interesting panel today to complement what Bishi is bringing on board. When I say complementary and also from a diverse field, you can see the panelists, they are from fields of pharmacovigilance as well as from academia. And in pharmacovigilance itself, you can see the panelists have got a different type of background from different geographic areas. It's my pleasure again to welcome and introduce Ms. Sowparnika Sabu, who is working as an associate professor with Ezhuthachan College of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Trivandrum. Got many peer-reviewed journals in such publications for her, and as well as is pursuing her PhD as we speak. Welcome, Sowparnika, as a panelist to this webinar.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to welcome Ms. Pranjul Arora, who's working as a Deputy Project Manager with APCER Life Sciences in Ahmedabad. Pranjul is a pharmacovigilance and drug safety expert and has worked in various CROs managing pharmacovigilance operations for multiple MNC clients. Welcome, Pranjul. The panelist is Ms. Anupama Devarajan, working as a compliance consultant with IBM, working for Pfizer as a client, and is based out of Los Angeles. And you will be surprised to hear it's right now 4:30 in the morning for Pranjul, for Anupama. Really appreciate your flexibility and commitment, Anupama, and good that your alarm worked as well. We are happy. We are thankful for that. Welcome you to the webinar. And also finally, Ms. Christy Jolly. She's working as a safety associate with IQVIA in Kochi, working as a pharmacovigilance and safety expert with multiple MNC clients. And one thing which I want you to keep in mind is you have a speaker who is an expert in this area from a European and international point. You also have the panelists, where you can see not only from academia, but also from pharmacovigilance from across the world, which actually shows me the opportunity of pharmacovigilance, not just in international markets, not even in India, but also in Kerala. IQVIA is a big company. IQVIA is a fantastic organization to look for if you are having an interest in pharmacovigilance, and that too easy to be, in Kerala, opening doors in Kerala. So without stealing any more thunder from the team, I welcome all of you once again on my behalf, as well as on COP's global behalf, to this great start for the second webinar series, webinar on importance of adverse drug reaction monitoring, which is also called pharmacovigilance. Please put your questions or comments in the chat. One of the panelists will be consolidating that and passing through and getting back to you in between. Don't sit back, relax, but get your attention to the topic, because this is going to be one of the major upcoming opportunities in the pharmaceutical field in India, definitely. Thank you once again. Welcome everyone. Open to you, Bishi.
Thanks, Amish. Okay.
Now it's your turn.
Okay. So, in fact, before I starting the webinar, actually, my heart goes to the people in Ukraine, actually. So, in fact, I was in. Do you see my slide actually?
Yeah, we can. Beautiful one.
In fact, I was in Ukraine in 2018, so it was a nice country. I was there actually, and I'm pretty sad that there is war going on there, and we should say no to war actually. So I just like to quote the quoting from Mahatma Gandhi. I'm a man of peace. I believe in peace. I do not want peace at any price. Actually, this is I really think about it. Actually, we all keep in mind that my heart. I think we are all in this situation. We should support Ukraine. Actually, so it's very sad that things are going on there. So I will anyway come back to the webinar now. So you see my slides. So I'm going to here talking about pharmacovigilance, the importance of pharmacovigilance. In fact, the PV is vast. So I am not going to give you a detailed discussion about pharmacovigilance. My idea is just giving a basic idea about pharmacovigilance. So that's my intention here, actually. And I'll be taking you to some of my experiences, PV, mainly on European perspective. That's my main point discussing here. And some of our panelists, they are well experienced in Indian perspective. They will be giving you answers if you have any questions. And I will invite them to pitch in and give you some idea about pharmacovigilance, what is going on in India at the moment. So these are the main idea behind these presentations, which I'm going to do it now actually. So when Samish talked about European qualified person for pharmacovigilance, I was one of them actually. That's maybe you might have a question on that. So it's a mandatory requirement for all the medicinal products which is marketed in the EU, and this person is ensuring the compliance to the EU market according to the rules in place. Actually, that's the role of the European qualified person for pharmacovigilance. So I just giving you like it's still the beginning. You may have questions, so I just giving an answer on that actually. So the next slide, I'm going to talk about the definitions. So we are talking about what is pharmacovigilance. What is, one second, let me. So what is pharmacovigilance? What is an adverse event? What is an adverse reaction? In that category, what is an unexpected adverse reaction? And what is a serious adverse reaction? What is a side effect? What is a signal? And what is a causality? So these are the jargons you usually come across in pharmacovigilance. So I'll be going in a little bit detail in next slides about these definitions. So the next one is I'm going to giving an introduction. Then organizations are involved in pharmacovigilance. First of all, we have World Health Organization, and then we have CIOMS, that is Council of International Organizations of Medical Sciences, and then we have ICH, International Conference on Harmonization. So in fact, the WHO aims to ensure safety and medicines of vaccines by ensuring reliable and timely exchange of information of safety issues. What the Council of International Organizations of Medical Sciences, what they do, it's an international organization, it's a non-governmental organization and non-profit organization established jointly with WHO, and they will be giving guidance to the health research and health professional through their different activities. Actually, that's the main role of CIOMS. And the next one is ICH. These are the international councils for harmonization of technical requirements for the pharmaceuticals for human use, actually. So it's like also they're bringing together regulatory aspect and the medical aspect of different medications in the market. And their mission is to achieve a greater harmonization worldwide to ensure that the safe and effective and high quality medicines that are developed. So they are the three main organizations involved in pharmacovigilance. So the World Health WHO, they have a center in Uppsala. It's called Uppsala Monitoring Center. They do regular training for pharmacovigilance and for the professional around the world. In fact, in the governmental activities, actually, they do a lot of programs for different activities in pharmacovigilance. So next slide, I'm going to a definition in pharmacovigilance. It's established in 2002. So the science and activities relating to the detection, assessment, understanding, and prevention of adverse effect or any other drug-related problem. That is the definition set by the WHO in 2002. So in fact, the medicines and vaccines have transformed the prevention and treatment of disease in addition to their benefits, actually. So the medicinal products may also have side effects, some of which may be undesirable or unexpected. So pharmacovigilance is the science and activities relating to the detection, assessment, understanding, and prevention of adverse effect or any other medicine or vaccine related problems. So in fact, all the medicines and vaccines undergo rigorous testing and safety efficacy through the clinical trials before it's coming into the market, before the authorization. However, the clinical trial process involves studying these products in a relatively small number of selected individuals for a short period of time. So that's not necessary, actually. We need to have the data in the clinical side, and also the drugs are marketed, and we need to monitor if there is any safety issues or any adverse events, and everything is coming out. This over the long period of time, actually. That's also one of the reasons is pharmacovigilance is very, very important in the current scenario. So when we talk about the history of pharmacovigilance, you must have heard that. I think I think all the pharmacy students and the people who studied medicine, we must have seen these pictures in our pharmacological books. So here it's the picture is shown that is ficomalia. So you see the person is sitting on the side. This person is suffering from ficomalia, actually. Actually, thalidomide introduced in 1957 as a sedative wonder drug or insomnia, plus antiemetic effect for monitoring morning sickness, resulting in exposure to thousands of pregnant women, actually. So approximately 10,000 children affected with congenital anomalies, as examples, the ficomalia during the 50s and the 60s, leading to the withdrawal in 1961 and the pharmacovigilance laws being introduced actually in 1961. So you see that in ficomalia syndrome is a very rare birth defect characterized in most instances by severe malformation of the extremities actually. And infants born with this condition will have arms or legs that are severely shortened or sometimes is absent. So this was the history when you're looking back in the why the pharmacovigilance is important, why it came in place, why this congenital anomaly is one of the reasons the pharmacovigilance come in play a role in the current drug scenario. So then next way I go into the definitions. What is an adverse event? It's a medical occurrence temporarily associated with the use of a medicinal product, but not necessarily caused. They're related actually. So what is an adverse event and ADR? That's a two different actually. An AE can be life-threatening. An ADR differs from an AE in that ADR is associated with a causal relations between the medication and the injury. So within the AEs, such events are viewed as side effects and causative relationship between the drug and the event cannot be established. Anyway, we will give you some examples. I will ask some of the panelists to pitch in and give you some example on these definitions. So what is an adverse event? What is an adverse reaction? So it's also established in 1972 by WHO, a response to a drug which is noxious and unintended, which occurs at doses normally used in man for prophylaxis, diagnosis, or therapy or disease, or for which the modification of physiological function. So this is the reaction. There is a causal relationship with the drug. Actually, that's also anyway. Those things we will come in with an example later during the discussion. So what is an unexpected adverse reaction? It is not consistent with the application product information characteristics of the drugs. Actually, we know that every drug has got a summary of product characteristic. In that product characteristic, you have defines which reactions are expected for the investigational medicinal product or being administered to subjects participating in the clinical trial. That's we call investigator brochure in pharmacovigilance. We call it reference safety information. And we have summary of product characteristic. It is a document describing the properties and officially approved conditions of use of medicine. It summarizes the product characteristics from the basis of information of healthcare professionals or how to use the medicine safely and effectively, which is the abbreviation is called, we call it SMPC in pharmacovigilance. And we have also company core data sheets. It's also defining, it's an unofficial working document prepared by the marketing authorization holder, usually by the pharma companies. It contains the materials relating to the safety of medicines, indications, dosing, pharmacology, and other information concerning the product. Why I talk about this? Because there are expected adverse reactions and unexpected adverse reactions. So these are all we look into when the case come in pharmacovigilance, we look into the listed, we call it listedness or expectedness actually. Based on that, we will see whether these are expected based on the summary product characteristics or reference safety informations or core company data sheet. Based on that, we decide whether it is expected or unexpected. And the next slide, we're going to side effect. So it's an unintended effect occurring at normal dose related to the pharmacological properties. So maybe Pranjul, can you bring into some of the example? It would be great, actually. The listeners can get some idea about what are these adverse event and adverse reaction. What is a side effect? Please go ahead, Pranjul.
Sure, Biswajith. These definitions have been very, very appropriately provided by you. So, in terms of example, I will start with some of the common ones. Like sometimes we do have a runny nose, and we tend to take the antihistaminic that we have available, and later we feel this unwanted effect of drowsiness. So, in simple sense, in the layman language, we can call it as an adverse event or the side effect. Also, this is something which is unintended effect occurring at a very normal dose of of that tablet or the pharmacological substance that we are using. So, a side effect. Now, if we relate that, we could consider that the drowsiness could be due to the drug that we have just consumed, or in other way, we could say that there could be some causal relationship between these. So that's an adverse drug reaction that you just mentioned, that the causal relationship has to be there. So this has been very well explained by you, that an adverse drug reaction is an obnoxious and unintended response to a medicine. Now let's move to the another side of the discussion. You might have come across a patient undergoing a chemotherapy and might have experienced alopecia, or we can say some oral fungal infections. These are also some of the very common side effects that we encounter. Nevertheless, we use these terms interchangeably, and now we know that what is the thin line difference between these two. Now getting on to these unexpected and the expected adverse event. Now, both these example of drowsiness after an antihistaminic and we say in alopecia, chemotherapy, these are the physical responses of the drugs. These are very common. So these are mentioned in the labels that you just mentioned, that is the CCDS, the investigation brochure, SMPC of these drugs, and therefore this could be termed as the expected ones. Like for an unexpected adverse events, I mean, we could say that it happened after the drug administration, but was not mentioned in these labels. For example, like we have a chemotherapeutic agent causing carotid artery dissection, which could lead to the life-threatening situations of subarachnoid hemorrhage or brain ischemia, which might not be previously known to be caused. So that's the unexpected adverse event. So I hope I was able to clarify these definitions.
Thank you, Pranjul. So, and the next one, we will come with some examples on each session, actually. So giving you some idea about what it is. Actually, it's quite unknown. Most of you maybe is the students, or maybe they are not working in the pharmacovigilance field. It's better to get a glimpse of what we are doing and what is pharmacovigilance activities involved. So that's why I'll try to pitch in people during the webinar, actually. So the next one, I am going to the signals. There are different sources of signals. There's coming from spontaneous reports. Sometimes it's coming from scientific literature, sometimes from the clinical studies. So it's like a signal is like it's a reported information on a possible causal relationship between an adverse event and a drug, of which relationship is unknown or incompletely documented previously. So in fact, to confirm a signal, we need to have more than one report is needed, depending on quality of the information and seriousness of the event. So these are the very, very important things to confirm a signal. Actually, if there is a signal, we have certain procedures in place. I'm not going to detail all those things. Actually, it's very laborious process when there is a signal to confirm the signal and validate signal. It's a long process. But what I guess just want to give you an example of what I mean, like talk about what is a signal. So maybe Pranjul, you can bring, if you have an example, you can bring in, please.
Yes, Biswajith. For signal, this term is self-explanatory in its own way. That for signals, like sometimes we do have some adverse events being caused in a particular population, let's say elderly people, at the pharmacological doses that we are usually being administrating them with. So if some event is occurring or may require some special attention from the health authorities or the MAH, we would say. So those are the signals. It could be just the increase in the causes of headaches or migraines. We would say the intensity of the headaches is more in some, let's say, elderly people after consumption of a particular drug in a particular race or the ethnic. So that's a kind of signal. So these signals are further analyzed whether these could be caused by the drug or could be some other causes as well.
Thank you, Pranjul. So, in fact, the interesting part of, because if you take vaccines, actually, vaccines are administered in a healthy persons, and you get sick after vaccination because of the side effect. That's one of the the paradox of the whole thing, actually. Then we have drugs also. We are taking drugs to treat a situation, treat a disease, and you get sick of that also. I mean, these are the interesting parts of pharmacovigilance. We need to monitor that properly, and we have to define what is a signal, and if the signal is going to be a risk to the society, it's a risk to the public health. These are the role of a pharmacovigilance, actually. So they do it. They have a constant interactions with the health authorities, and we monitor in day-to-day basis. All the adverse reactions come in place, and we have a team looking into signal detection. We have a team in processing the cases, because all these things we will come in detail later, because we will be talking about the career involved in pharmacovigilance. So we will go into detail later in the slides, actually. So then after the signal, I'm going to next to the serious adverse event or a reaction. So serious adverse reaction, there are different criteria to consider event is serious. In fact, when you look at any untoward medical occurrence that at any dose results in death, a reaction can be life-threatening and requires inpatient hospitalization or a prolonged existing hospitalization, results in persistent or significant disability or incapacity, or a congenital anomaly. There are five criteria according to based on the SIOMs. It's like, these are the things. The results in death, we all know. If the patient dies, it's related to the drug. It's a serious adverse event. Related or unrelated is a serious adverse event. Life-threatening. For example, if you take an injection or medicine, you have an anaphylactic shock. It can be life-threatening. It's one of the examples. And the next one is required patient hospitalization or a prolonged existing hospitalization. The patient is already in a hospital, and due to taking drugs, and your existing hospitalization is extended. So this also one of the reasons. Hospitalization or extension of hospitalization is also one of the criteria to consider the event as serious, and results in persistent or significant disability or incapacity. So maybe if you take a drug, you become deaf or dumb for whole life. So it's a persistent, a significant disability to you. And congenital anomaly, we have already seen that fecomalia. Actually, fecomalia is one of the anomalies you can have if the mother is exposed to the drug while her pregnancy. So these are the 5 criteria to consider the event as serious. So these things, these considerations we do when the case we receive at the triage center. Actually, the triage center, they look into that, whether this case is serious or non-serious. We will do that at the early stages of the case reception in pharmacovigilance. So the next one is, I'm going to talking about the frequency of adverse reactions. So you see that a very common, that means greater than equal to 1 in 10, we consider as a very common side effect. Adverse reaction, a common and frequent, that means 1 in 100, actually, greater than 1 or 100, and less than 1 in 10, we'll consider as a common or frequent. Uncommon and infrequent, that means greater than 1 or 1,000, or less than 1 or 100 per 100, actually, then it's uncommon. And the rare is like greater than 1 in 10,000 or less than 1 in 1,000, actually, then it's rare. And very rare, that is greater than 1 in 10,000. So this will consider as a very rare. So these are about the frequency of adverse reactions. The next one is causality. There are different causality. I consider as a very metaphorical definitions on this. So when you take a causality assessment, essentially means finding a causal association or a relationship between a drug and the drug reactions. So there are different definitions, different categories you can take the causality. There are certain, we call it certain. There is a probable relationship, a possible relationship, an unlikely relationship, a conditional or unclassified relationship, an unaccessible or unclassifiable relationship. These are all put in place by the WHO. I will go a bit in detail on these terms, actually: certain, probable, possible, unlikely, conditional or unclassified, unaccessible or unclassifiable. All these things I will go a bit in detail in the next slide. So what is certain? Certain means event or a laboratory test abnormality which plausible time relationship to drug intake. It cannot be explained by a disease or other drugs, or response to withdrawal plausible pharmacologically or pathologically, even definitive pharmacologically or phenomenologically, an objective and a specific medical disorder or a recognized pharmacological phenomenon. So if there is a re-challenge is if necessary. There are the two terms is very interesting in pharmacovigilance: re-challenge and de-challenge. Re-challenge means you stop the drug and you take again, then it's a re-challenge. De-challenge, we stop the drug, then we will see whether the adverse reaction is appearing or not. Re-challenge means we stop the drug and challenge again, then the adverse event appearing again, we call it re-challenge positive. That means then this is one of the reasons we can see whether the event is certainly related to the drug, actually. So, I mean, it's all can be discussed, actually. There are definitions put in place. For me, it's difficult to define these kind of causal relationships terms, actually. Anyway, this certain is known as like that, actually. So it's an event or laboratory test abnormality which is plausible time relationship to drug intake. The next one is probable. Event or laboratory test abnormality which reasonable time relationship to a drug intake. Unlikely to be attributed to disease or other drugs. Response to withdrawal clinically reasonable. Re-challenge is not necessary. In that situation, we will consider as causal relationship is probable. The next one is possible. Event or laboratory test abnormality which reasonable time relationship to drug intake could also be explained by disease or other drugs. Information on drug withdrawal lacking or unclear. As I show the cartoon on the side, in Namada Malayalathil parayum possible, that means sadhyamana. Probable, that means sadhyamaya. So it's kind of I still confused about what is possible and probable in causal relationship in pharmacovigilance, but we have certain definitions. We just follow that, actually. That's the thing. Because everything is certain rules we have to follow in pharmacovigilance. We have to follow that, and we have to adamantly follow that. That is the challenge of pharmacovigilance, because we need a lot of discipline, and we have to respect all the rules, because we play both a medical expert and a regulatory expert. We have to challenge. We have to balance both of these things in pharmacovigilance. We need to have a role as a guardian of the public health, and at the same time, you have to follow the regulatory terms according to the different health authorities put in place. So, talking about possible. So the possible, this is the definition of possible. Then we go to unlikely. Unlikely, that means event or laboratory test abnormality with a time to drug that makes a relationship improbable, not impossible. Or diseases or other drugs provide plausible explanations. So this is unlikely, what we call it unlikely causal relationship to a drug. The next one is conditional or unclassified. So event or laboratory test abnormality. So, and also more data for proper assessment needed, or additional data under examination. So in that situations, we will consider this event as the relationship as unclassified. The next one is unaccessible and unclassifiable. So unaccessible, that means a report suggesting an adverse reaction cannot be judged because of insufficient or contradictory information. and report cannot be supplemented or verified. In that situation, we will consider the causal relationship as unaccessible. Anupama, do you want to pitch in something about these activities, or I continue? Do you hear me, Anupama?
Yes, no, you can continue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So in the beginning, I talked about I will be talking only about the European perspective because I don't have experience in India. I never worked in pharmacovigilance in India, though I work a lot with Indian vendors and service providers. But I will just bring out to you why the adverse reaction is a burden to the public health. So you see that in the slide, ADR is a response to medicinal product which noxious and unintended. I reiterated again because we mentioned that many times. When you see that here, the 5% of all hospital admissions are due to an ADR in Europe, actually. And 5% of all hospital patients suffer an ADR. And ADRs are the 5th most common cause hospital death. And it is estimated 197 deaths per year in the EU are caused by ADRs. So when you look at the cost of one ADR treatment, and estimated is 2,250 euros actually. So, and the total cost of society to ADRs EU is 79 billion. So these are the data I collected from the European medicine agencies. So these are you see that it's a huge burden to the public health actually. So, and you see even small improvements in the pharmacovigilance system will have a major impact on public health and society. So that's why the pharmacovigilance is very, very important. So the next one is, why do we need pharmacovigilance? Why do we need pharmacovigilance? Firstly, we are always learning more about medicines. Medicines are tested extensively in clinical trials before they are authorized and in the time of safety and evaluated actually. So it's well tested before coming into the market. So as you see it in the slide, when it's authorized and what now? So however, more can be learned once the medicine are in use. So pharmacovigilance is therefore vital. It means that the safety of all medicines monitored throughout this use and information on risks is generated and appropriate actions can be taken doing pharmacovigilance monitoring. So that's why the importance of pharmacovigilance is I'm mentioning here actually. So there is more learned from monitoring the safety of medicines once they are in use. And this allows us to take an action, issues arise. So that's why pharmacovigilance is important. So the next one is, I'm talking about what kinds of side effects are associated with medicines. We have said not everything can be monitored about the side effects of a medicine until it has been used many people over time. That's very, very important. Otherwise, we cannot, because I seen that in my professional experience, we have drug in the market in 40 years, and after 40 years, new side effects come in place. So we are still verifying what is the reason behind that. So every time, because the monitoring is very, very important in adverse reactions. So that's why, because we need to have more data to understand the role of, the intensity of the side effects, the magnitude of side effects, and all these things very, very important. So side effects are also known as adverse reactions, can range from the inconvenient to life-threatening effects. Some adverse reactions are predictable. Some cases it's possible to foresee the potential side effects, while otherwise is less predictable. Some side effects can be caused as a result of prescribing or administration errors, while others are due to susceptibility of specific individuals, only occur after prolonged use, as I explained previously. So, these are the main reasons. Also, I'm reiterating here is the importance of pharmacovigilance. So the next slide, I will go to the pharmacovigilance overview. So the process of pharmacovigilance involves several distinctive steps, such as collection of information or on potential side effects, detecting if any new or changing side effects that are arising, deciding if action is needed to optimize the safety and effective use of drugs, communicating this to the users of the medicine. It is also important to follow up whether the actions taken has been effective. So These are the main overview of the pharmacovigilance. It's a brief overview of the pharmacovigilance. And the next slide, I'm going to how monitoring side effects. You see that in the picture, in the flow chart, you see, either patients can report the adverse reaction to the doctors or your physicians or the healthcare professions, or the patients can directly report to the pharmaceutical companies through specific forms, or usually most of the companies nowadays, they have their, it's I think it's Europe is mandatory to have on their website a link to report the adverse reactions. As you see in the form, in the picture there, you can report it to the forms, the paper forms, also to the digitally you can inform. So either you report to the doctor or directly to the pharma companies or national competent authorities. So you see that the pharmaceutical company, they collect the information, and the national competent authority also collect the information. And in Europe, especially in France, I share my experience is that we have nearly 20 regional pharmacovigilance centers in France, and they collect adverse reactions, and they collect it and send it to the Eudravigilance. Eudravigilance is the main centralized database in the Europe. It's under the EMA, and these local pharmacovigilance centers, they report this information to the pharmaceutical companies also. So this is the how the monitoring is done in Europe. So all the different ways you reach you get the information, it reaches the centralized database called Eudravigilance human database, and on database we'll do the Eudravigilance, they do the safety monitoring. So Eudravigilance is a database which is central repository of reports, data storage and data analysis of side effects, reports in the EU and European Medicine Agency, is responsible for maintaining this database. So reports are constantly monitored, and any signals that indicate unexpected reactions to particular medicines. So this is a constant surveillance we do in Europe for adverse reaction monitoring. So the next slide, I'm talking about what safety actions can be taken. When a new information arises that warrants an action, regulators have several tools available. So we call it in Europe, say, Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee. So once the PRAC, we call it acronym is PRAC, it has been informed or a safety issue, what actions can be taken? Patient information can be updated as well as the summary product characteristic, as I mentioned about previously, or for the healthcare professionals. These SMPs are for healthcare professionals, and patients and healthcare professionals can also be informed via safety communications, including direct healthcare professional communications and educational materials. And also the benefit risk profile can be reviewed via referral. And in some cases, access to medicine can be retrieved, restricted or retrieved. So then there is a signal. So these are one of the actions they put in place. If there is a threat to the the public health, then can be retrieved or restricted in the market. Next is pharmacovigilance overview and patient role. So coming back to the overview, we see that the role of the patients healthcare professional can play. They are involved throughout from reporting adverse event, and as already described about that, and to be being involved in the pharmacovigilance decisions through their membership or PRAC committee, Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee. And patients and healthcare professionals participate as experts in specialist meetings such as scientific advisory meeting and ad hoc expert meetings, which contribute via written consultation or risk minimization measures. So, and will be involved in the public hearings that will be convened around particular issues. If there is an issue, there is a signal, even the public are convened by the Pharmacovigilance Risk Assessment Committee, and they will make their consensus and they make the decision what actions to be put in place. And finally, they review the product information and safety announcement if you would like to learn more about these activities. So there will be a review of information and take action and communicate to users. So these are the basic overview of the pharmacovigilance in a European perspective. I mean, there is no difference actually. All around the world, pharmacovigilance follow the same rules. So I can talk about officially what is done in Europe because that's what I am experienced actually. So I will conclude here about the pharmacovigilance overview and what are the basic definitions and overview and all these things. And if you, the listeners, do you have any questions? You can ask it. Then we will go for the career opportunity in the next slides. So if you have any questions, please pitch in and we will try to answer by either by myself or with our team, the team of panelists.
Sir, am I audible?
Yeah, please.
So there are a few questions from the audience. Shall I read it out?
Yeah, please, please.
So the first question is, how can a consumer report an idea to a PV center?
Pranjul, you want to take that question?
Sure, Biswajith. So, like if one intends to report an adverse event, there are two ways of reporting them. First, it would be reporting it to the MAH, that is the company who is the market authorization holder of that particular drug. And it can be done via email or via a phone call on the call center of the number given on their website. And the second one in India or any other country is by reporting it to their health authority, the respective health authority. For India, we have this as PVPI maintained by IPCI, IPC, Indian Pharmaceutical Commission. So we have this official website given, and there is also a toll-free number. And also they have some forms which are very much user-friendly, and it can be filled by anyone, mentioning all the details of the drug that they have consumed and has caused the side effect or the adverse event. So these are the ways one can report an adverse event.
So the second question is from Sony Paulos. Could you share the importance of reporting adverse effect by pharmacists and doctors to the health authorities?
I didn't get. Can you please repeat it, please? Can you? Sorry.
Could you share the importance of reporting adverse effect by pharmacists and doctors to the health authorities?
Yeah, in fact, we need to monitor. It's very, very important, actually. We need to monitor the side effects, which if the patient is coming to you and informing you that there is a side effect she experienced while taking this drug, and this information should be captured, because we should not have an underreporting. So I think any healthcare professional, if it's a pharmacist or nurse or someone who's working in the medical field, it's very important that they inform the health authorities or the pharmaceutical companies about the side effects. And also, especially when you talk about pharmacies, even the medical representatives, one of the links in certain companies, they're reporting the adverse events to the companies. So the role is very, very important, because we need to have more data on a specific drug. Then only we can look for signals or have a proper understanding of the adverse event. So it's very, very important that the pharmacist and any healthcare professionals is reporting that adverse event to either to the pharmaceutical company or to the local competent authorities.
So the next question is, what is the timeline of reporting an idea?
The day itself. That's why, because we call it a clock start date. Actually, we start the 0. The clock started as soon as you receive an adverse event. There the clock starts, and there are stipulated timeline according to the guidelines. Actually, maybe Pranjul, can you bring into some of your experience? I mean, like, yeah.
Sure, Biswajith. So like Biswajith just mentioned, that we do have timelines for reporting of the various cases that we receive. So for non-serious cases, it can vary from 30 to 90 days. Like for serious cases, like seriousness criteria that we just got to know in the previous slides, so it can be around 15 days. And sometimes we have this reporting to our business partners. So for them, it could be 8 days. And like few of the events which are life threatening or may cause death, so they because of the nature of those adverse events, they need to be expeditiously reported to the health authority. So the timeline for them is 7 days. So we have this reporting timelines to the health authority, but from the patient or the consumer or the healthcare reporter, the timeline is day 0, like he just mentioned, that it has to be reported ASAP.
Yeah, just to be reported. Yeah, go ahead, Sowparnika, please.
So the next question is, can we report an idea associated with herbal drug?
Because Yeah, of course you can actually, but I don't know about the rules in herbal medicine actually. If it is coming from one of the marketing authorization holders we are dealing with, so and it has to be reported if there is an adverse event. So we don't know the marketing authorization status of the herbal drugs. So it's based on that. Of course, they must have a system for that, and it has to be reported.
So the next question is from Swati. She's a BPharm graduate. Her question is, did I want to study any course additionally to join in pharmacovigilance?
Yes, that's a good question. We will come to that later, actually, when the career opportunities will coming in the next slides. You know, we will keep that question for the next section. So if there is any it's related to pharmacovigilance, we will deal with that now. Actually, we will try to answer those questions. If they have a question on career opportunities and education, we will come into the next slides. Okay.
So the next question is from Saju Rajapan. Can you explain about the importance of hemovigilance?
The hemovigilance is exactly the same like pharmacovigilance. There is nothing different because it's blood products. We call it blood products. We follow the same exact path as like pharmacovigilance. There is no specific rules for hemovigilance. Also come under the drugs and SIRAs, and you know that we follow the same pattern in pharmacovigilance. There is no specific system put in place for hemovigilance. And there are also the people talking about they want to have vaccinovigilance. These all are under discussions. So it's like vaccine is like, you know, once it's get into your body, you can take it out. So it's like a gunshot. You got it in your body, it's there in your body. So there are discussions. There are a lot of discussions going on whether they want to have vaccinovigilance and hemovigilance and all these things. But at the current stage, we follow exactly the same rule in pharmacovigilance going on presently.
So rest of the questions are related to the job opportunities and all.
Okay, thanks. And I hope I can continue, Prashant. Yeah, I think we don't have any question on this side. And Manoj.
Yeah, continue, please.
Okay. So this part is like because I know the students are more keen on, because we are all studying to get a job, you know, it's very, very important. So because that's also, we have to keep the career in mind, actually. In fact, when I talk to my story, I moved to Paris. I was not thinking of pursuing, I didn't intend to pursue my pharmacy studies or my career in pharmacy in Paris, you know. So, but the certain circumstances and situations forced me to get back to what I studied. Get back to the roots, you know. That's what happened on me, actually. So I continue. I don't have any regrets. I enjoy what I'm doing at the moment for the past 19 years. So I work in the industry, and yeah, you know, I'm like the songs of Beatles. I am a dreamer. I'm not the only one, you know. So it's exactly because we need to. That we have dreams, and we need to exist. We need to exist to dream, you know. So a lot of things come in place, and what we study, and we're looking for career in that, and it's very, very important. And I am sure that I was a student like you, I was thinking about my career in the future. So we will come to that, but I'm not an expert, but I try to give you some help, actually, have some aid, what you can see as a career opportunity in pharmacovigilance. So I will go into that next slide about that. So it's like, because India is the place now, I think at the moment, India is the place to be for pharmacovigilance activities outsourcing, actually. And the next one is now they're talking about Philippines also, they're getting into there. But India has got a huge workforce and very big talent pool. The qualified healthcare, I mean, like all qualified dentists, pharmacists, and every healthcare professional, they are doing jobs in pharmacovigilance currently in India. So you see that what's the reason, actually, for the pharmaceutical companies in USA and Europe, setting up a system is it's not very cost effective. And the thing is, and that's the reason they're looking for other places with the cost effectiveness, and the resources is a huge challenge in Europe and US. So these companies are relied on PV outsourcing to markets such as India. So actually this part of the presentation provides the overview and what kind of jobs, what kind of the activities are doing at the moment. And I think there are more experts than me in this, actually. Anupama, she's worked in India. She worked in various CROs, and now she's in the US. So she can be a very good guide for you guys to talk about her role in pharmacovigilance, what she's doing, and what she went through, and what is currently now, actually. And Pranjul also, she's currently working in India. She worked in different CROs. And Christy also, she's just a beginner in pharmacovigilance in a venture company. So it's like they can also share and guide you and give you some insight on what they are doing, and why you have to choose one of the reasons. I mean, like they can give you examples, and you can get to see what is holding for you in pharmacovigilance in the future. So you see, the PV outsourcing is a market in India, and the prediction into the future PV outsourcing in India based on current trends and PV world. I'll be talking about that. So we talk about the overview of outsourced PV activities in India. So PV outsourcing generally involves the handover of certain process. You see that in the blocks in the below. So it include like core PV activities, like when you talk about the governance of maintaining compliance and various PV activities that are currently outsourced to India and presented in the figure below. You see that here. So first of all, we have the collection of ADR and data. That means data entry, triage, and different call centers. So these are also one of the sources we receive the cases into the database, into the pharmacovigilance. So it's like a collection of ADR data. So when you talk about these are one of the activities, one of the outsourced PV activities in India, I think most of the companies, this collection of ADR data is moving into artificial intelligence systems. Actually, they are using the artificial intelligence technology. So it's mainly done to, I think some of the small companies still follow the classic case data entry and all the system, the case coming place, receive, as I showed you before, either through the websites or through the forms or through the competent authorities. You receive it on your side, and they do the data entry. And first of all, they do the triage, whether all the informations, there are four informations to consider as an event. Actually, they look into that in the triage step, and they see whether this can be classified as serious or non-serious based on the criteria as I mentioned before. And the call centers also, like you have like a hotline, and you receive calls maybe in the middle of the night about the patient is reporting an adverse event, and this can be recorded. And these are all started like day zero. Actually, when you receive it, actually there they started, the clock starting and the event. And as Pranjul explained, there are serious adverse events. They take 15 days to report to the health authorities, and there are in the life-threatening condition, maybe to 7 to 8 days. Not maybe, it's you have to report in 7 to 8 days to the health authorities. These are the importance when you receive reception of data in pharmacovigilance at the receiver end, like the triage and collection of ADR data center. So as I said, this can be replaced by artificial intelligence in the future. It's already companies are put in place these activities. And the next one is one of the activities outsourced to India is individual case handling. That can be case processing, ICSR medical review, and case submissions. Individual case handling is like case processing. When the case is rare, the four elements are there, we consider as an individual case report, safety report, and we do the analysis, and we see the gravity of the case, and also the talk about we do a medical evaluation on the case. We do a medical assessment, and it will go to the case submission. Maybe Anupama can pitch in what is a case submission. Can you please get into that, Anupama?
Yeah, sure, Viswajith. So case submission is nothing but we have already discussed the timelines that was talking about serious life-threatening or death cases within 7 days, and the other serious within 15, and the rest. So those are really coming into picture as ICSR, the individual case safety report. Those are the submissions that we need to make to the regulatory authorities or to the licensing partners. So that comes under the case submissions. So it's inbuilt. Many types of submissions are happening in different countries. Like few are still email systems, even though we have electronic submissions. So it will differ based on the regulatory authorities or the licensing partner whom we are really submitting. So. Yeah.
Thank you, Anupama. Very good,
Thanks.
actually. Yeah. And Christy, do you want to talk about your case processing? Are you involved in case processing at the moment at IQ?
Yes, I'm involved in the case processing. We receive various types of adverse events from various call centers across the globe. And according to certain criteria set by the client, we enter into a safety database. There are different safety databases. We are working on Argus database. And then we set them to the medical review.
Okay. Very good. So, I mean, this is the main activities in case processing is currently done. Actually, I mean, like the processing is very, very important. That's the core of the whole thing. So the case we receive, if we don't have a case, we don't have. I mean, some companies they have like you can't even imagine 200,000 cases in every trimester. You know, it's a huge chunk of data coming in. So we do the analysis. I don't want to name all the companies what they're doing that, but that's a huge chunk of data coming in actually, and that's why because they don't have the manpower to do that in Europe and US. So they need to find a huge workforce, especially the people who can understand English and write English is very, very the core. The advantage India has got now is the English speaking crowd actually. So it's a huge advantage over other countries because that's why everyone can understand English and all the technical documents are written in English. And I think if you have written your records in pharmacology, it's not a big, it's not a size like what do you call that? It's not a rocket science. You can all do that actually. I mean, like we are all doing that on day-to-day basis, you know, our pharmacovigilance records and the labs and everything. So it's like a medical writing. And I can say when I moved to Paris, my first job was a medical writer. I was working as a medical writer because I was already fluent in French. I was helping the companies translating the documents from French to English and writing reports for them, authoring like articles for small journals. And also I was writing final study reports and all these things, you know, that's also helped me because writing is a big part in pharmacovigilance, especially in case processing, because we have to read a lot of data and you should have the analysis capacity and analyzing capacity, and that way you brief and narrate adverse event. Actually, these are all the main. And now all the safety database, they have their auto narrative templates, but even then we have to look into that in detail what all things are written, and you have to write it. Sometimes you have to correct it, and it's very, very important. And I think the one advantage we have in India that everyone can understand and read English and write in English. So that's a key role if you want to join in pharmacovigilance. That's very, very important. So the next one is I'm talking about periodic reports. We call it periodic safety update reports, and we have periodic benefit risk. I'm just messing up. Periodic benefit risk evaluation reports. That's called PBRERs, and we have development safety update reports, and we have PADRs. PADRs means period adverse drug experience report. That's mainly for FDA, and there are benefit risk assessment reports also. So then that means PSUR and PBRE and DSUR PADRs, we call it aggregate reports in pharmacovigilance. So the thing is, each authority, they have certain specifications on receiving their the reports in certain format. So PSURs, actually we call it like international birth date. As soon as the drug come into the market, after we call it international birth date, and based on that, first 3 years, every 6 months we have to write adverse event reports, actually aggregate reports. Every 6 months until 3 years, then it will go to every 2 years, then they will go to every 10 years. That's the pattern at the moment is followed in Europe. So there are PSURs, PBRERs, and the PBRERs is mainly for the post-marketing data, and DSURs is development safety update reports. That's the drugs going through the clinical trials actually. So this also periodically we have to submit the reports into the health authorities, and PADRs are mainly is called periodic adverse experience report. That is mainly requested by the FDA. And best benefit assessment company assessment reports, it's usually asked by the authorities time to time if there is a updates or any specific request from the authorities, we have to submit to that. This is also one of the biggest jobs outsourced to India currently. So it's done by different CROs and vendors. So it's also, as I said, English is the main language. English is the technical language. It's internationally used. If I write in the local language, they cannot, because these are all multinational companies, so they can submit all around the world. If the language, the technical language is English, is much easier. People can understand, and that's the reason. It's also one of the job opportunities you can aim for in pharmacovigilance. Then there are also signal management and signal detection activities, and literature search and evaluation is also huge activities outsourced to India. So now we also slowly it will be replaced by artificial intelligence. They can do it very easily. It's like one click, you can get analyze millions of data and get all the outcomes in the way you wanted, because it's mainly you do the signal detection and literature search and evaluation for the companies. They are responsible for the marketing authorization, their marketing authorization model. Because if I work for a company, if there is a drug, their drug in the market, and they look for the associated adverse reaction to these drugs in the literature. Actually, that will be done weekly basis, and we have to really scan all the document and see whether there are adverse events reported to the certain drugs. If it is a generic drug or a commercial, I mean like a trade name drug actually. So these are all the main things they do the evaluation. And the next one is risk management plan writing and also labeling updates. So it's also done, like labeling is, as I said, expectedness or labelness means that adverse event or side effects expected or labeled with the drug medicinal product, and it is previously documented in reference safety information. We can also update the labeledness, and these things can be done in the course of the time when the drug is in the markets. This is also one of the activities outsourced to India. So these are the, as I explained, these are the overview of the outsourced PV activities in India. So I don't know whether Pranjul, you want to add something in it? You go ahead, please.
Well, Biswajith, all these activities have definitely been very well explained by you. So apart from that, I mean, I would just be connecting these dots to the previous question regarding hemovigilance that it was asked. So hemovigilance, cosmetics, drugs, devices, everything goes through all these workflow and all these activities. So very well explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Pranjul. So, so you see that actually all the set of actions currently outsourced to India. So I'm sure that they're still looking for workforce in India. I think there are a lot of job opportunities for you guys actually. So it's please hope for it actually. And the next one is the main service providers and PV outsourcing activities, where there are CROs and the business process optimizations. So the major players, you see it here, IQVIA, LabCorp, APCER, Syneos, and the highlights, they focus on drug development and managing trials and well suited to address PV activities. And the BPOs, business process optimizations, the major players are Accenture, TCS, Cognizant, Wipro, and highlights focus on core PV activities, case handling, ICSRs. From the staffing perspective, they have a huge talent pool of doctors, pharmacists, dentists, and other medical professionals, and they're still looking for people to work in this because a lot of companies are lacking resources. So it's one of the opportunities you can tap in actually. So the next one is the advantage of PV outsourcing. Why they are outsourcing PV activities beneficial to the pharmaceutical company in various ways, including because of the cost-cutting budget management, increased business capacity management through the vendor, increase the efficiency of the PV process, and increase return of investment. And pharmaceutical companies can concentrate on more core PV activities and allocate resources to more efficiently and effectively and efficiently. So they can more concentrate on, because as the lot of data is treated, actually they can go for mainly focus on the signal activities or risk management. Though it's outsourced, they can do all the oversight and the more efficient, and we have a good workforce in India. So that's also one of the reasons they are outsourcing the PV. They're taking advantage of that outsourcing to India. So then now is the future of PV outsourcing in India. India has witnessed an immense growth in CRO industry recent times and estimated $2.5 billion US markets in 2030. Until 2020, they are expecting a compound annual growth rate of 18 to 20%. So you see that India is delivering, because we all know, I think it's long back, actually 20, 30 years back, India was also delivering IT activities, services efficiently to the past. And now India is the go-to place for outsourcing PV functions, so it's a place to be for the PV activities outsourcing in India. So that's all from my side, actually. So thank you. And if you have any questions, please go ahead. And the panelists, they are very well experienced in PV, and they're still doing their activities in pharmacovigilance in India and abroad. They're all our classmates and some of my colleagues, and they will be happy to answer your questions if they can.
So am I audible?
Yeah, please go ahead.
So there is one question from Swati. She's a BPharm graduate. Her question is, did I want to study any other additional course to join the pharmacovigilance?
I will share my experience first, actually. Then Pranjul and Anupama, they can give some insight on that. Because when I started pharmacovigilance 2003, we never had any studies in pharmacovigilance. So in Europe, actually, now there are certain universities are giving special courses in pharmacovigilance. When I joined as a trainee, because I discovered pharmacovigilance when I was doing my master's in Pierre and Marie Curie University, because there was a presentation about pharmacovigilance. They came and showed the pharmacovigilance database, how the cases are managed and what is adverse reaction monitoring. Like I did now, actually. I was in the past, I was listening to one of the presentations. I was really keen on that. I thought that it would be interesting, because my master's was in medical data processing and communications. I developed an application, actually, for the online, real-time exchange of data. So that was my thesis, actually, as I was working on that. Then I thought that, it would be interesting to get into, because I have the background in pharmacy and I know the databases now. So I developed the database and everything. So then I thought that, okay, why don't I join? I just applied for a training program, internship. There I started pharmacovigilance, actually. So they taught me pharmacovigilance in that times, You have, I think that they will give you more. Anupama and Pranjul and Christy, they can provide you a better understanding. I mean, they have the better understanding of what's happening in India. So they will give you on that, because where I started in the company. So they taught me pharmacovigilance, and it was one of the best companies in France, and I still keep it as a reference in my career. So everything started there, my career in pharmacovigilance. So Pranjul, and can you go ahead with your experience in pharmacovigilance and how, yeah, please.
Sure, Biswajith. So my career has also been quite similar to your, because 10 years back also, we were having this thing as a chapter in our course book of pharmacology, but didn't have that practical knowledge. But with time, I have also seen that many institutes and many universities are providing this as an additional subject or a certificate course, maybe sometimes. So in that cases, in my opinion, I would say that it's definitely see, the basic qualification is that one should be a healthcare professional or from the life sciences background. This is the basic qualification that the companies require for a person to hire for these activities. But having said that, I would say that an additional course or a coursework previously done to your job gives you insight about what it is going to be. So to have a more clarity on what you are going to do as your job. So having that clarity and the importance of the work that you would be doing, and also getting to know about the safety database and the various medical writing activities or the PBRs and the PADRs that you just mentioned. So that is definitely a beneficial thing to have, but the basic qualification of B pharmacy or M pharmacy does fulfill the basic criteria. Yeah.
Even the doctors, there are
Yes.
pharmacovigilance doctors are there. There are dentists are there involved
Dentist.
in pharmacovigilance. I mean, if you have a modern medicine background, it's much easier to understand pharmacovigilance. Though other medical fields also getting involved in pharmacovigilance. If you have the modern medicine background, it's always a positive side, and I think you will understand better pharmacovigilance when you get in there, actually. So I think, yeah, that's the thing. And Anupama, can you share your experience if you can?
Yeah, sure, Vishnu. So, എന്നെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ഞാൻ ബിഫാം പഠിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ആ ഒരു സമയത്ത് എംഫാം മാത്രമായിരുന്നു ഫോക്കസിലുണ്ടായിരുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ എംഫാം കഴിഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ലാസ്റ്റ് സെമസ്റ്ററിൽ ഈ എംഫാം ഞാൻ മെഡിസിനൽ കെമിസ്ട്രിയിലാണ് ചെയ്തത്. എന്നിട്ട് പോലും ലാസ്റ്റ് സെമസ്റ്ററിൽ എനിക്കൊരു ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റി കിട്ടിയത് നോവാർട്ടിസ് ഹൈദരാബാദിൽ ഫാർമക്കോവിജിലൻസിൽ പ്രൊജക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടായിരുന്നു. സോ ദാറ്റ് വാസ് സ്റ്റാർട്ട് I really heard about our practical experience with pharmacovigilance, and from there I moved to the BPOs like TCS, and there I started working as a safety processing expert. Then with time, of course, the roles change, right? So that's how I came to this field. But of course, as Pranjul very rightly said, we really do not need an experience or a certificate or a diploma in other courses if we are healthcare professionals, purely the B.Pharm, M.Pharm, doctors or nurses. So all these, even the dentist, and also all these experience qualifications purely cover the minimum requirement. But as rightly said, these all certifications are added advantage. So when we look for a freshers, of course, it's, I would say in an interview, we really don't want the fresher to talk about the whole pharmacovigilance. We are not expecting that. But of course, 50% is their knowledge, and the rest is purely their communication skill, how enthusiastic they are for getting into a job, how curious they are in the learning, how flexible they are with the job. So it's with respect to a job for a fresher, I would say that certifications would be just added advantages towards, because they'll facilitate your, or that will help you to perform well in the further prospects of your job. So yeah, for a B.Pharm person, I really don't think that it's really required. Thank you.
Okay, great. And Christy, you want to add something? Your experience?
Actually, ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ കരിയർ സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്തത് ഒരു ക്ലിനിക്കൽ ഫാർമസി ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ടിൽ നിന്നാണ്. I want to improve, look for a better opportunity. That's how I uploaded my CV in Naukri and all like platforms. From there, the CROs have shortlisted my profile, and that's how I have got into this career. Actually, I was not looking for pharmacovigilance, but meanwhile they have shortlisted. When I come to here, it's a better perspective of our pharmacy.
So you're in the right place then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I have many colleagues who do not even have B.Pharm graduation. Some are from biotechnology background, zoology background. Only life sciences is required for this.
Okay. Yeah, it depends on certain activities in pharmacovigilance. I mean, life sciences are a basic qualification. And if you have a pharmacy degree or dentist degree or nurse degree or doctor's degree, it's a plus to get into pharmacovigilance. So you will look at it differently, actually, when you opt for a position in pharma companies, actually. So, Sowparnika, do you have any other questions?
Yes, sir. There is a question from Haripriya. She's asking, job opportunities in Kerala in pharmacovigilance.
Because yeah, maybe I think I heard that there are vendors offices, outsourcing offices in Kerala, mainly in the Technopark in Trivandrum and also in Kochi. I think Kochi, Christy is based there in Kochi for a company based in the Technopark. Am I right, Christy?
Yes, Vishata. I'm working for IQVIA based in Kochi,
Yeah.
and there's another company in Trivandrum, Icon, and
Yeah.
there are a lot many little companies working here.
Okay. Yeah, there are
Okay.
opportunities. I'm sure, because I've seen that actually in my getting into, because my day-to-day activities, my life is in the Zoom actually, because all my colleagues are in India. So it's so I have like a daily 3-4 meetings with my teams in India. So because I'm just doing the oversight from here, because we have six of us here and we do the oversight. So because the companies are all, I think in the past 3 years in different pharma companies, all my activities are based in India. So I have a constant interactions with the Indian team. And so that's, and I think it's a growing market, as I said, like you see that 18 to 20% they were expecting in 2020. So now it will be more than that actually. So it's a huge place for pharmacovigilance. I think sure that Kerala is not an exception. We have also very good talent pool there, and I see that you're all in a good position. So it's like, so there are opportunities. So you have to dig into that, because I cannot give an answer for all your questions in that job aspect. So, any other questions?
So the next question is from Aisha. She's asking for the pharmacovigilance careers overseas. And her next question is whether any experience is required to work in pharmacovigilance field in India.
I don't know, Pranjul, can you take that question, please?
Sure. Yes. So these are the very two common questions that we get to ask. So like my previous reply, so there is no experience that is required to enter this field. So it is just the basic qualification, and if you fulfill these basic criteria of having good communication skills and a very good knowledge of the qualification that you had, and also you have this ability to face these clients and flexibility to work during because sometimes we do have some urgent cases to be done, and flexibility to perform your job well. So that's the only thing that is required. So if you have an experience in other fields, it is just an added advantage. Anupama just said that. So certificate course or some other your practical experience in medicine or dentistry or pharmacy practice, they are just the added advantages that you can apply while working. So a fresher can join any of the CROs or the pharmaceutical companies for the pharmacovigilance, in short. And adding to the previous question that we had about the job opportunities near Kerala, I just would like to add one point here, that because of the pandemic in the recent past we had, many of the companies are providing the work from home opportunities or the hybrid model of working. So it could be possible that the company that you're working for is based in some other corner of India, but is allowing you to work from home or with occasional visits to the office. So you can explore that too. So just being restricting yourself to that region of India. I hope my answer clarified.
Yeah. Pranjul, that's a good point actually. Even here in Europe, that's all you didn't need to, because I can work from here to any companies in Europe because they are asking like to be there one or twice a week, once in a month in the office actually, and you can.
Yes.
Because for the past 2 years I'm working from home, so I never been to office. I've been to office only once, so I find that I'm very productive, and it's more flexible in the sense that actually. So like, and another question is the work in overseas is like, yeah, you can work in overseas. I think now I would rather suggest to go to an English speaking country if you want to work overseas, to coming to France or Spain or Italy. You have to learn the local language. Because my advantage I was already fluent in French when I moved here. So that's why things were much easier going there actually. Though I never worked in French, though I live in Paris for the 21 years, my working language was always English, and never had a chance. I mean, though, of course, we communicate in French. That's a common thing. But apart from that, I would rather suggest if you want to go abroad, go to an English speaking country. And then some of the universities, they're giving lessons, the courses in pharmacovigilance, and that will be a small door getting into the industry. So it's to learn in that company, then that thing will be in your CV that will be given our advantage for you. Of course, if you have a degree, if you have a lot of experience from anywhere in the world, pharmacovigilance is the same. Actually, if you work in ICH guidelines, or if you're working in the CM's guidelines or WHO guidelines, we are all learning the same thing everywhere around the world. There is no, of course, there are local rules. The basic basic thing in pharmacovigilance is the same around the world. So it's like I would rather suggest to go to an Anglophone country and learn pharmacovigilance if you can there, and you can always try. There is nothing holding you back. So you can always try for that.
So the next question is from Nisha. Which regulatory authority is monitoring and coordinating pharmacovigilance activities in US and European Union?
In the US is FDA, Food and Drug Administration. They are the one doing the pharmacovigilance oversight. In Europe is European Medicine Agency, is called EMA. So they are the two regulatory authorities. And there are a lot of European Union is different countries are involved. They have their local authorities, but now most of the European countries are centralized. I showed you the Vigilance database. They're collecting all the data is there, and US, they have the FDA. So FDA is monitoring all the adverse reaction activities in US. And Japan has got their own activities, and other countries have their own. But the major role is that USA and Europe. So they're highly advanced in pharmacovigilance.
So the next question is, can pharmacovigilance provide lead for synthesis of new drug?
In fact, as I explained in the previous slides, because the pharmacovigilance is monitored throughout the course of the drug, actually, from the clinical trials till post-marketing. So in fact, what pharmacovigilance is doing, just the safety, because they monitor safety in all phases of the trial. So that gives, because we say the safety of the drugs is the main important, because there are new indications come in place. That's pharmacovigilance we monitor. We call it like off-label use. Sometimes they use, and sometimes the drug put in market. Sometimes physicians find that, oh, I have a new indication for this drug, you know. So we need to monitor in pharmacovigilance, but not specifically any synthesis aspect of pharmacovigilance. I think I think it's mainly only safety monitoring we do in the clinical trials and in post-marketing activities. Pranjul, you want to add something on that?
Well, most of the things have been very well explained by you, Biswajith. So, because sometimes we find that one of the concurrent conditions that the patient had is being cured by the use of some drug. So it could be just the accidental thing, or it could be related to the pharmacological properties of that drug, that some other condition is being cured or is being benefited with that. So in that case, so because we do have the safety data or the toxicity studies and everything, so the clinical trials can be performed based on the various other criterias if it can be used for curing some other disease or some other indication, in a very layman's hand. Yeah.
Anupama, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, regarding the synthesis, I believe it will not directly give any clues, but there are some indirect clues that we get from pharmacovigilance that now the computer-aided drug designs are really well established, and by looking at the adverse reaction or the profile, this will really help the scientists who are working behind the R&D to just do some different modifications to the drug molecule, and that may help them in coming up with or reducing some side effects and bringing some other kind of effects on the drug molecule. But overall, it may not give a direct clue, but of course, some indirect clues that help us in some molecular modifications for the R&D team.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Sowparnika?
Next question is job responsibilities that I would be doing in pharmacovigilance job field.
Yeah, that was explained in the pharmacovigilance. First of all, I tell you the quality of a pharmacovigilance, you need to have a good analyzing mentality. I mean, not exceptionally, but you need to have a basic analyzing mentality, and you have to be rigorous and very disciplined, because you have to respect the timelines. Very, very important, because it's all based on that. You need to respect timelines of adverse reactions and reports, and also aggregate reports. You have the stipulated time set by the regulatory authorities, and also for the ICSR submissions also, we need to respect the timelines. And there are different roles when you talk about, like, you start from like a triage expert, actually, because you don't need to have a highly qualified medical expert. A basic life sciences person can do that, actually, at the triage level, case receive. And I told you this will be replaced by artificial intelligence in the future, but at that point also you can do that activities. And ICSR processing, the case processing, is like the reception of the case. You look at the gravity of the case, whether it's serious or non-serious, writing the narratives, and that should have a writing capacity to do that. And there we use the events should be coded like a MEDRA dictionary. It's like a medical dictionary for regulatory affairs and pharmacovigilance, I think so. Medical dictionary for regulatory affairs, actually. MEDRA dictionary, you need to have the capacity to understand what is the disease and how it should be coded in the database. So that's very, very important in the process of case processing. And we have to verify listedness of the cases, whether it's listed or unlisted, because that will help when you do the aggregate reports, the person on that side, because as it's done by different, because in the past, when I joined like 20 years back, everything was done by the same person, actually, writing reports or processing the case, and everyone oversee the whole activity. Now the data is huge. It's done by different parties in the team. Actually, it's a different teams doing each activity. So it's better to have, there are experts in each field, actually. So that's why, but at the moment I am an expert in one field, so I'm doing that every day. So it's like that. If you have an oversight, the whole activities, then you will better understanding of pharmacovigilance. That's why I'm explaining each section in pharmacovigilance. So then you case processing, you learn what is the case, and if that is your product, then you will understand what is the thing. And when you go for the aggregate reports, you will understand what you have done throughout this period, and then you will have a better understanding when you write your aggregate reports. So the thing is, there you need to have a certain templates stipulated by the EMA. They have the PBRAR templates, then the DSUR templates. We just follow that templates when you write the aggregate reports, because there is a special sections are given. So you have to talk about that. What is the drug is like, we talk about the ongoing signals, then closed signals during the period, the data from the clinical trials, the data from the post-marketing trials, how many drugs sold in the market. And based on that, we'll do the estimated exposure to the patients. I mean, that's why you need to have a bit of analyzing mentality on the data. Then it's much easier to do the role of a pharmacovigilance in your career. And of course, then there are submissions in the cases. Then you need to know what are the timelines to be respected, and the signal detection. You need to analyze the data every day. Sometimes some companies, they do trimester, or some companies they do monthly basis. So that one is like, and risk management plan is one of the things, and you have to write that. And then you should need to have a good knowledge of the drug. Then only you can write, and you should have a sound knowledge, and you should have if you're not a medical professional, I mean, like if you're not a doctor, you should have the access to a medical professional in the field. I mean, a doctor, then you can clarify your questions, and you can prepare the reports appropriately and properly. So these are the qualities you should have when you join pharmacovigilance. I just briefly explained. When you get into the real subject, you will understand more, and you will become an expert in the course of time.
So the next question is from Reshma. Mm-hmm. How to develop a positive ADR reporting culture?
I think Pranjul is the right person for that.
Thanks, Biswajith. So for this, because while processing these cases, as an Indian, I got to see that the countries apart from India, the people there, they are reporting extensively about the adverse events and the pharmacovigilance and the drug safety information to the MAH or the regulatory authorities. We used to have a number of cases from the other countries. In India, we can see that this practice is on a lesser side. But of course, I mean, to have this improved in the future and have more of the cases reported, thus maintaining the drug safety profile of those products, we have to encourage the other people, being the healthcare professionals. So we have to start it from our own home, that if any of the near ones from our side experiences the side effects, so we ensure that we perform this duty of informing this appropriately to the health authorities, and also encourage the people around us or the healthcare professionals whom we get in contact. So this encouragement and the awareness is all what is needed, because now we can see that the Indian government has put in a lot of efforts by initiating this PVPI and the other programs, and making this reporting very, very easy for everyone. So now it's our duty and our role to play.
Yeah, coming to that adverse reporting reaction in India, in fact, as soon as after my graduation, I think Chandrasekharan sir is with us. Actually, I was involved in his team as a scientific assistant for the first Kerala State Drug Formulary. So we took a British National Formulary as a prototype, and in the British National Formulary, there are yellow forms at the end. Actually, I remember that. I didn't know anything about ADR reporting and things like that. I remember when we compiling this the Kerala State Drug Formulary, I included this. We removed the British thing in it, and we included the adverse yellow forms in our Kerala State Drug Formulary. I don't know. I was involved. We released that book. It was a huge challenge for me after my graduation. So I was really very, very much, I gave my heart and soul for that project. And we released this book in 2000. And we have included this ADR reporting forms, and I don't know how many of them use that actually for reporting the ADR, and to whom they have to report. I didn't know. I have no idea about how things were done in the Europe in that time, because we put ADR forms at the end of the drug formulary, and I think I don't know any of the doctors, because it was written for the healthcare professions in Kerala. I don't know how many of them use these LO forms in our the formulary we put in place. So I mean, like, I think it will come. The time will tell. The things are not different because it's changing. I mean, especially the world is changing so fast, especially the digital world, and everything is very easy accessible now. You can report your form from your smartphone. It's like, it's not a big deal now, actually. So in the pharma companies now, they have special sections for social media surveillance. They do that, actually. They do Facebook and Twitter, or any kind of activity, any social media activity. They follow it properly, and I think I see the very good bright future for pharmacovigilance in India. I think the things will develop. We see that we all changed actually this course of time, and we are still developing. We are moving ahead, so there will be reportings, and I think this kind of webinars give an awareness to the people that pharmacovigilance is very, very important. I know that Pranjul, you are very much you also in the process of very much keen on developing these systems in India, I think. And Anupama, do you want to add anything on this subject?
Yeah, not as such. I mean, you have actually covered everything, but still. This is our responsibility that we really, if I consider myself, I don't report, okay, even if I experience some adverse event. But that's really, that we need to change, really. We need to change, because we have options, which company's product we are taking directly, we can see that in the label itself. So we can go to the site of that company website, there will be adverse event reporting forms, or there will be a link for submission.
Yeah, they can take a phone call. Yeah, they can take a phone.
Yeah, there's phone also. Yeah, so it's that awareness should be. I don't know. Maybe Indians are not so concerned about their own health. I'm not sure why the reason is, but the reporting is very, very low from India. But that will have to be changed, and of course, that can be achieved only through the awareness. So. I know that's rigorously conducted by many pharma companies and even the government initiatives. Maybe down the line, we also will become a great country of reporting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think I see only positive side on that. Yeah. So, Sowparnika, do you have any other questions?
Yes, sir. There is one question from Sandesh. Any software skills are needed in pharmacovigilance career?
Software skills, yeah, of course. I mean, like you need to basic, like I will tell you a bit, like Excel is very important because we use a lot Excel sheets actually, preparing, analyzing data. And also you need to have understanding of the databases actually. Now there are a lot of different databases used in pharmacovigilance. Before it was like applications, now it's all web-based forms, and you can use like Argus and IRIS-G and different providers giving actually. It's all Oracle-based companies. And I tell you, it's all developed in India. And it's all multinational companies, but all developed in India, in Bangalore or Kochi. And the thing is, when you look at that, when you remove the cover of all these adverse databases, we say that Indians are behind the whole thing actually. So it's like it's all developed in India, and you need to have the capacity to understand how the cases should be entered. And it's not a rocket science, you know, like you learn that through training programs, and they will teach you how to do. I think I'm sure that Anupama and Pranjul, even I myself have taught my juniors how to do the entry in the category, do the using the softwares. You know, like it's like I usually do that, and yeah, this and of course, and because we use different applications every day, like different applications, and it's all we have everything is digitalized now, you know, so it's like there is no, very rarely we use paper actually. So it's like we learn in day-to-day life, and that's like a lot of people said at the moment in the current world, you need to have that adaptability and flexibility to understand things going on in the digital world. And this is we are all living in a digital world. Everything is digital in pharmacovigilance too. So it's like you should understand what kind of new applications come in place in each companies and each activities you are involved. And there will be giving lessons to you, the trainings to you, and then you will learn that, and you will be able to do your activities in pharmacovigilance. So I think Anupama and Pranjul, if you have anything, you can add into that also. So it's
yeah, thanks. So just I would say with respect to the computer skills, I don't know, copy paste and alt tab might be the maximum number of times we use. So that is the basic understanding. You should know the shortcuts of copy paste and altering the tabs, because we may work on different documents at a time and different tools. Like you may have the original adverse event report with you. You will have multiple documents you refer to, the guidance documents, or we talked about many reference documents, the CDS, SMPC, USPI, so whatever. And then you have your safety database. So it's like you have to account yourself to use all these different systems at a time. And with respect to the softwares, of course, the MS Office, that's really required, because the Word documents are presentations sometimes, not maybe in the initial stage, but still. And then of course the Excel worksheets, because most of the things maybe we may or may not have a system-based tool to record your own daily progress or daily updates. So you may be updating Excel sheets. So of course you should really learn how to work on a shared Excel sheet without handling the data. So you should really train yourself on all those minimal requirements. That's something, of course, nowadays it's really, I think for the BPharm freshers also, it's completely, they're well aware about all the MS Office applications.
So Anupama, I'm not a big fan of copy and paste because we have issues. Because I'm in the quality section, you know, so we have a lot of issues about the copy and paste. So the thing is, because that affect the KPIs of the vendors actually. So, and we have a special the criticality for that copy and paste actually. So there is a different value we use. So I mean, like yeah, of course we all do that actually, but you have to be careful when you copy and paste. We are stressed out or you're tired, you forget to remove certain things in there. So you have to be really careful about that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Pranjul. Share your experience, please. Yeah.
Yes. So Anupama has covered almost everything that is required. So it's just the basic IT skills, MS Office, and also the navigation through the windows, and the safety database training is given while on job. But yes, if you have those basic IT skills of how to write a narrative and how to use a punctuation and everything, this all does help you during this job. So most of the things have been.
Yeah, it's done because there was a frozen actually. So
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Sowparnika. Is anything, any more
So
questions?
the next question is whether the pharmacovigilance career is more of a regulatory function or research in nature.
It can be both. So it can be both. I can say 50% regulatory and 50% medical actually. So you have to know how to juggle it actually. So it's like as a clinician, sometimes it's boring for them to pharmacovigilance because we take more administrative things than real medical aspect, So the thing is, for us, a date is more important. It's critical than safety data actually. So it's sometimes it can be, like we say, wow, what is that actually? So like why it's so important for us, It's like the date is very important. Which date is happened? The latency is important. So these are very, very, very important in pharmacovigilance because that's the way we deal with that, because the timelines are very, very important then, because that's there the regulatory role is playing a big role. But if you write an aggregate report, you can really enjoy. I mean, like you can really go through the case and each case and see if you're really interested in the product and the subject. You have a lot of time to do the analysis and you can write your conclusions and you can talk about detail about the things you have seen while going through these ICSRs and compile everything. And that's also very important. But the regulatory aspect is very, very important in pharmacovigilance. That is there, everything is there actually, because the timelines and administrative aspects and whether we have received the names of the physicians reported, the reporter's name is there, whether initials are there, whether the form is signed is there actually. These are all very, very, because there's a regulatory aspects. It's like and whether we anonymized those documents which is sent to the authorities, because it's very, very important, because it's because as it's a legal valid report, so the regulatory aspects playing a big role, huge role, and equally medical aspect also. So I cannot yeah, if I can talk hours and hours about that, but this is a basic idea about the balance between the regulatory aspect and medical aspect of pharmacovigilance, scientific aspect of pharmacovigilance. And you can also share, Pranjul and Anupama, what is your experience on that? Maybe it's going with detail, I don't know. Prashant, do you have enough time for that? Can we continue a bit, or?
We'll continue for 4 minutes.
Okay, go ahead. So Anupama and Pranjul, go ahead with your experiences. So.
Yes, see, for regulatory aspect comes into picture when we have this update in the reference safety information, the CCDS, IB, and PIL that Biswajith had explained. So updating these documents requires the whole regulatory activity and the updation of the regulatory data. And also, once we process the cases, they are submitted to the regulatory authorities. So this is the part where regulatory authorities and the regulatory work comes into picture. So it has been very well explained that it is a balance between these two activities, these two aspects of pharmacovigilance. Yeah. So what do you say, Anupama?
Yeah, we have already covered that. So it covers both. I mean, research and regulatory, and both should be considered. PV consists of all of that.
The basic things you have to keep in mind: we are monitoring the safety of the drug, whether it is through the clinical trials or post-marketing. So the safety is important. So we mainly following the safety, whether it's when you have to take into regulatory terms or in medical terms. The main focus is on safety of the drug.
Yes.
Sowparnika, any other questions?
Sir, I think we have covered almost all the questions.
Okay, Thanks a lot. I think I was able to answer some of your questions, and especially very knowledgeable panel we have, Anupama, Pranjul, and Christy, and thanks for your input. And thanks again, especially a special thanks to Prashant and Manoj, the following up with me, because I joined their bandwagon because I saw their enthusiasm and I thought of, okay, why not? I should also join and pitch in and give some. And OG followed with me, and a special thanks to Sunil Kumar, OG also, and of course Thomas and his team. That is brainchild of organizing this event. So fantastic initiation, and I'm very happy to be part of this whole webinar. And thanks once again to Anupama, Pranjul, Sowparnika, and Christy. And next is the floor to Samish. And
thank you. Thanks so much, Bishop. Fantastic. This is awesome, because I can tell you I learned quite a lot today. When people ask me about careers in pharmaceuticals in India, my mind usually went only to those normal directions like sales and marketing or manufacturing or teaching, or government jobs, but never pharmacovigilance came into my mind. But I really regret for that, because I understand this is something so much booming in India, or still yet to grow in India, mainly because of the talents available, the cost leadership, and also the criticality, right? And today actually, you guys taught us some of the basic things on PV, some of the jargons over there, why it is critical. Again, from a commercial point, I can understand all my commercial colleagues on the call. We will understand a safety can actually make or break a product in our industry. So it is so much critical to not only just collect it, but submit it. And there was a fabulous question in between, whether this will again feed back to the R&D to have new product ideas or product designs, which is exactly the same. So, and also from a career point, you all mentioned about how it's growing in India. There are big CROs and BPOs already having big campuses in India. Even companies, Anupama mentioned about Novartis Hyderabad. I've worked there. It's a beautiful place to work. And Christy is from IQVIA in Kochi. So these are all, I'm taking the leeway here. Sorry if I'm doing it, but people who are listening, people who are interested in this should reach out to these folks. They are your alumni. Reach out to them. I hope they will be definitely happy to help you all. Already they have got connections in these big companies or big campuses in pharmacovigilance. Great job, Bishi, but definitely the panelists, Anupama, Pranjul, Sowparnika, and Christy, you guys did a fantastic job, not only complimenting. Again, I'm adding that. You were not repeating what Biswajith was telling. You were complementing with your expertise and experience. Sowparnika was fantastically looking at and consolidating these questions from the viewers to us. Amazing job, everyone, and a huge hand to all of you. Thank you so much. And it's my privilege again to pass on the mic to Dr. Dilip, who's a professor of pharmacy in Alleppey Medical College, and he's also a part of the Kerala University, Kerala Health University. So
he was also my classmate. Don't forget that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Thank you, Samish. Fantastic.
Thank you, Samish. And again, a good morning and good afternoon, good evening to all. Respected senior faculty members, principals, other professionals, colleagues, and dear students. This is the starting day of our second series of Pharma Fair webinars organized by COPS Global. And we are honored to have Mr. Biswajith, BK, case quality and medical expert, Sanofi, France, to share his expertise in the importance of adverse drug reaction monitoring pharmacovigilance with us. Bishi പറഞ്ഞതുപോലെ ഞങ്ങൾ ക്ലാസ്മേറ്റ്സ് ആണ് ബിഫാം. ഞങ്ങൾ ട്രിവാൻഡ്രം മെഡിക്കൽ കോളേജിലെ ക്യാമ്പസ് ലൈഫ് ശരിക്കും എൻജോയ് ചെയ്ത ഒരു ബാച്ച് കൂടിയാണ്. Of course, and he's a multifaceted genius. As he already explained, he was an important resource person in bringing out the first Kerala state drug formulary, when most of the other states in India were ignorant about it. Also, he is a well-known fashion designer, a swimmer, golf player, football player, basketball player, and of course, a great artist. The session he presented was really informative and motivational to the delegates, especially to our dear students. On behalf of COPS Global, I extend our sincere gratitude to you, Mr. Biswajith VK.
Thank you. Thank you, Dilip. വളരെ സന്തോഷം.
Today we have some great personalities in our panel list. And also I am very happy to see Ms. Anupama D, Compliance Consultant, IBM Private Limited, USA. Ms. Sowparnika Treasa, Assistant Professor, Ezhuthachan College of Pharmacy, Trivandrum. Ms. Christy Mary, Safety Associate, IQVIA, RDS, and a very, very well experienced Ms. Pranjul Arora, Deputy Manager, APCER Life Science, Ahmedabad, in the panel. And they made it a wonderful session. On behalf of the COPS Global, I extend our sincere gratitude to you all for making this webinar a memorable one. I take this opportunity to extend our sincere thanks to all the senior faculty members, principals of various pharmacy colleges, and other pharma professionals for joining us today. We had a total registration number crossing 1,000 this time. And I thank all the student delegates who made this webinar a successful one. Next, I would like to denote some names from our COPS Global core team. Mr. Samish Menon, today's man of the ceremony. Dr. Prashant SS, the actual backbone of this webinar series. Mr. Manoj MN and Mr. Sunukumar OG, and many others whose effort for more than a month actually made this event a reality. On behalf of COPS Global, once again, I thank you, one and all. Thank you very much. Over to you, Samish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. This is awesome, and glad that you mentioned about a little bit more about the speaker and the panelists and the people who are working behind this such a great initiative. So, thanks once again to everyone, and I think we can conclude today's webinar with this high note. We will be coming back to you with a set plan for the web series too. We look forward to having this collaboration and engagement across. And thank you so much. You all take care.
Thank you. Thanks for this beautiful panel also. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Dilip sir, ഒരുപാട് നാളിന് ശേഷം കണ്ടതിലും സന്തോഷം. Sir ന്റെ CPX പറയാനും.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.